The paternity test results arrived at 6:47 a.m. on December 26th, 41 hours into the 48-hour deadline. Wurim stood in the hospital laboratory, the paper trembling in his hands, reading the words that shattered Seo-yoon's entire story. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Not his child. Never his child. A year of potential anguish built on calculated lies. Behind him, through the laboratory window, Seo-yun waited in the consultation room, her 8-month belly a monument to deception. Wurim felt something break open inside him, not heartbreak, but fury so pure it burned cold. He pulled out his phone, dialed 3 numbers. Seoul Metropolitan Police? I need to report fraud, extortion, and emotional abuse. Hey, besties. It is because you are special to me. That's why I've decided to create this particular episode for you. Episode 1 and 2 brought in lots of reactions. But, do you think Seo-yun will survive the scandal she wanted to play on Wurim and his family? What will happen now that she has been exposed? Stay close, because you're about to be wowed. Remember to like, subscribe, and let's jump into the story right away. The laboratory director, Dr. Choi, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, stepped forward quickly. Mr. Kim, please, think carefully before you make that call. Think carefully? Wurim's voice was ice. She lied about carrying my child. She manipulated me, terrorized my fiancé, disrupted our lives during a high-risk pregnancy. What exactly should I think about? The legal implications, sir, for everyone involved. Dr. Choi gestured to the paternity report. Yes, she lied, but proving criminal intent versus desperate mistake, that's complicated. And pressing charges against a pregnant woman, regardless of her actions, will destroy you in public opinion. I don't care about public opinion. You should. Your therapy centers serve vulnerable children. Scandal affects funding, reputation, community trust. She paused. I'm not saying she shouldn't face consequences. I'm saying there might be better ways than police involvement, ways that protect your work and your family. Wurim stared at the test results, his hand still hovering over the phone. Every instinct screamed for justice, for punishment, for Seo-yun to suffer consequences. But Dr. Choi was right. Scandal would hurt the centers, hurt Nora, hurt the twins. Then what do you suggest? Talk to her first, find out why, document everything, then decide. Dr. Choi's voice softened. Sometimes understanding the truth is more powerful than prosecution. Wurim looked through the window at Seo-yun. She sat alone in the consultation room, hands on her belly, face pale with anxiety. She knew, could see it in his expression, in the way he held the paper, in the fury radiating from him even through glass. He walked into the consultation room slowly, deliberately, closed the door behind him, placed the paternity test on the table between them. 0%, he said quietly. Not my child. Never my child. So explain to me right now why I shouldn't call the police and have you arrested for fraud. Seo-yun's composure shattered. She started crying, but Wurim felt nothing. No sympathy, no softness, just cold, burning rage. Please, I can explain. Explain what? That you deliberately lied about a child's paternity? That you terrorized my pregnant fiancé? That you tried to manipulate me into taking responsibility for another man's baby? His voice rose despite his efforts to control it. Nora almost jumped off a bridge because of you. She's carrying twins with complications, and you added this nightmare to her stress. So explain. Now. Before I make that call. I was desperate, Seo-yun sobbed. My husband, the baby's real father, he left when he found out about the condition. Just walked away. Said he didn't sign up for a defective child. I have no money, no support, no idea how to handle this alone. And I saw you. Saw the news about your therapy centers. your engagement, your perfect life, the life I threw away. So you decided to destroy it? No, I decided. I thought. She struggled to breathe through tears. I thought if the baby was yours, you'd help. You'd understand. You'd make sure this child had everything they needed despite the condition. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to save my baby. By lying, by manipulating, by traumatizing everyone involved, I panicked. The genetic testing showed the same condition you have. I knew your foundation helps children like this. I thought, I convinced myself, maybe there was a chance it could be yours. That night before the Christmas party last year, we were together. We what? Worm's eyes narrowed. Be very specific about what you're claiming happened. Seoyun's face crumbled further. I was just so desperate, I thought maybe, if I just suggested it, you wouldn't remember clearly enough to dispute it. You gambled on my uncertainty. The realization hit him like a fist. You knew I'd been drinking. Knew I might not remember the full evening. Knew my condition makes me insecure enough that I might believe something happened that I blocked out. She nodded miserably. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Worm stood, pulled out his phone again. You manipulated psychological trauma. You exploited my medical condition and personal insecurities. You harmed my family. Sorry doesn't cover that. The door burst open. Nora stood there, still in her hospital gown from the previous night, IV pole beside her, pregnant belly prominent. Her face was a mixture of fury and something else, painful understanding. Don't call the police, she said quietly. Nora, I know what she did. I heard everything. Nora stepped into the room, moved to stand beside Warim. And she should face consequences, but not police. Not now. Why are you defending her? I'm not defending her. I'm protecting us. And I'm protecting that baby. Nora looked at Seoyun with hard eyes. That child didn't choose this. Didn't choose a mother desperate enough to lie, or a father who abandoned them. That baby is innocent. And if we press charges, if we create a scandal, that child suffers most. Wurim stared at Nora, this woman who had every reason to demand Seoyun's destruction, choosing mercy instead. Choosing to protect an innocent child even after being driven to the edge of a bridge. What do you suggest? He asked. Nora turned to Seoyun. You tell the truth. Publicly. You issue a statement saying you made a mistake, that the paternity test proves Mr. Kim is not the father, that you apologize for the confusion and any harm caused. You frame it as an honest error from a desperate mother, not deliberate fraud. That protects Wurim's reputation and your baby's future. And then? Seoyun's voice was barely audible. And then you leave us alone. Forever. No more contact, no more manipulation, no more inserting yourself into our lives. You walk away clean, with your child, and you never look back. But the baby, the condition, I don't know how to. That's not our problem anymore. Nora's voice was steel wrapped in compassion. You made choices. You face consequences. But we're not monsters. Wurim's Foundation will provide resources for any child with this condition, including yours. Anonymous support, medical referrals, therapy recommendations. Your baby won't suffer for your mistakes. But you don't get access to us. Not personally. Not ever again. Seoyun looked between them, seeing the united front, the decision already made. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. The statement? Everything. And I'll leave you alone. I swear. Sign this first. Nora pulled papers from the pocket of her robe. She'd somehow anticipated this. Had the hospital's legal counsel draft a document. A legal agreement. Seo Yun would issue the public statement, would never claim paternity or support from Wurim, would accept the Foundation's anonymous assistance, would maintain permanent no contact. Seo-yun signed with shaking hands. One question, Worim said as she finished. Why me specifically? There are other foundations, other resources. Why target me? Seo-yun looked up, her face raw with emotion. Because you survived it. You found love despite it. You built a life that proves this condition doesn't have to be a curse. I wanted that for my baby. Wanted them to know someone like them could be happy, could be whole. I went about it wrong. So completely wrong. But that's why. I wanted my child to have what you have. Hope. The words hung in the air. Wurim felt his anger crack slightly, not enough to forgive, but enough to understand the twisted logic. Desperation made people do terrible things. Fear for a child made parents into monsters or heroes, sometimes both. Your baby will have hope, he said finally. But not from us. Not directly. The foundation will help, but you need to find your own strength, your own path. Like I did. Like Nora did. You can't steal hope from others. You have to build it yourself. Seo-yun nodded, tears streaming. She stood slowly, the weight of her pregnancy evident, the weight of her shame heavier. Thank you. For not destroying me. For protecting my baby despite everything. I don't deserve your mercy. You don't, Nora agreed. But your child deserves a chance. Now go. Issue the statement today, and disappear from our lives. Seo-yun left. The door closed behind her with quiet finality. Wurim turned to Nora, pulled her carefully into his arms, mindful of her IV and belly. You're incredible, you know that? I'm furious, but I'm also a mother now. Almost. And I can't let rage hurt an innocent child. She looked up at him. Besides, we have our own family to focus on, our own battles to fight. She's not worth our energy anymore. The twins, Wurim said suddenly. The genetic report. Dr. Park said there was an error in the initial ultrasound. They're not identical. They're fraternal. That's why only one has the condition. Fraternal, Nora repeated, processing. So they're different. Really different. Not just the condition, but everything. Different genetics entirely. Yes. Which means we stop trying to predict who they'll be and just let them become themselves. Nora smiled through exhaustion. One will face challenges you understand intimately, one won't. But both will be loved exactly as they are. A knock on the door. Dr. Park entered, looking concerned. I heard about the paternity results. Are you both all right? We will be, Wurim said. But we need to know. The babies. After all this stress, all the complications, are they okay? Dr. Park's expression softened into a smile. That's actually why I came. I've been monitoring Nora's vitals all night. Despite everything, the evacuation, the emotional trauma, the stress, the babies are remarkably stable. Strong heartbeats, good movement, no signs of distress. They're fighters, these two. When can I go home? Nora asked. I want to leave this hospital, leave this nightmare, just be in our own space. Let's give it 48 hours of observation. Make sure the stability holds. Then yes, home. With strict bed rest and weekly monitoring until delivery. How long until delivery? You're at 24 weeks now. Ideally, we want you to reach at least 37 weeks. That's 13 more weeks. Early March, if all goes well. 13 weeks. 3 months. Wurim looked at Nora's belly, at the twins growing inside, at everything they'd fought for and nearly lost. 3 months to prepare, to heal, to build the life they'd imagined. We can do that, Nora said firmly. 13 weeks of rest and preparation. We can absolutely do that. But first, they had to survive the next 48 hours of observation. And survive the fallout when Seo-yun's statement went public. The statement dropped at noon, perfectly crafted by lawyers to protect everyone involved. I, Seo-Yoon Park, wish to address recent confusion regarding paternity of my unborn child. Due to my own uncertainty and desperation during a difficult pregnancy, I mistakenly believed Mr. Worim Kim might be the father. Recent paternity testing has definitively proven this is not the case. I sincerely apologize to Mr. Kim and his fiancée for any distress my error caused. I take full responsibility for the confusion and wish them every happiness as they await their own children. I ask for privacy as I prepare to welcome my baby and focus on being the best mother I can be. The media exploded. Social media went insane. Within hours, the story dominated Korean news cycles. But the narrative was controlled, a desperate woman's mistake, not calculated fraud. Sympathy tilted toward both sides, Worim and Nora for the ordeal, but also Seo-Yoon for being a scared single mother. Worim's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His assistant, his board members, concerned colleagues. He ignored them all, stayed at Nora's bedside while she rested. His mother appeared in the afternoon with food from Nora's favorite restaurant. His father came with legal advisors, ensuring the signed agreement was ironclad. Nora's aunt arrived from Lagos via emergency flight, having heard everything. "My niece," she said, gathering Nora carefully into her arms. "My strong, brave niece. Your mother would be so proud." "Mama would tell me I'm crazy for showing mercy," Nora said with a weak laugh. "Your mother would tell you that strength isn't just fighting back. It's knowing when to walk away. You did the right thing, baby girl. Protected your family and still showed grace. That's power." The hospital room filled with family, with love, with people who'd chosen to show up. Minsu's mother brought the boy for a brief visit. He'd been discharged but wanted to see Miss Nora and her babies. The 6-year-old placed his small hands on Nora's belly, felt the twins kick, and whispered, "They're saying hello. They're excited to meet me." "You'll be their big cousin," Nora told him. "You'll teach them everything." "I'll teach them music, like you taught me." His face was serious, determined. "I'll make sure they know they're special." Evening came, the visitors left. Worim and Nora alone finally. The room quiet except for the beep of monitors. "We never decided," Nora said softly. "About treatment for Twin A, the interventions Dr. Park mentioned. What do you want to do?" "I've been thinking about that. About your journey, your pain, your eventual triumph." She looked at him. "You didn't have early intervention. You faced the full challenge. And yes, it was hard. Yes, you suffered. But you also learned compassion, resilience, how to build spaces that heal. Would intervention have given you those gifts? I don't know. Maybe I'd have traded the gifts for less pain." "Would you, though? Really?" Nora's hand found his. "If you could go back and change it, become normal, would you? Knowing it might mean never developing the empathy that drove you to build therapy centers, never understanding difference deeply enough to design spaces that celebrate it?" Worim thought about the question seriously, thought about the humiliation, the isolation, the relationships that failed, but also thought about the Hyundai Community Center, the children it served, the moment Minsu first spoke after months of silence, thought about meeting Nora in an alley, two different people finding connection through understanding pain. "I wouldn't change it," he said finally. "The pain shaped me into someone capable of loving you, of doing this work, of understanding what matters. I wouldn't trade that." "Then we don't intervene," Nora said decisively. "We let Twin A develop naturally. We prepare to support them, love them, teach them that different doesn't mean less. Just like you learned. Just like I learned coming to Korea as a Black woman in healthcare. We give them the tools to build their own strength. And if they resent us for not trying to fix them, then we tell them the truth, that we chose to trust them to become who they were meant to be, that we refused to see their difference as something requiring correction." She smiled. And we tell them about their father, who survived the same condition and built an empire of healing. They'll have a roadmap. They'll never feel alone. Wurim kissed her forehead. You're going to be an amazing mother. We're going to be amazing parents. Together. The 48 hours passed. Nora was cleared for discharge with strict instructions. Bed rest, weekly monitoring, no stress. They went home to Wurim's house on the cliffs. The house Nora had once called the saddest house I've ever seen. But it wasn't sad anymore. Nora had slowly been adding life to it over the past year. Photographs from Lagos, from their travels together. Color. Throw pillows, artwork, plants that somehow survived despite their chaotic schedules. The guest room was now being converted to a nursery, painted in soft greens and yellows, gender-neutral and warm. 13 weeks, Nora said, settling into bed with help from Wurim and her aunt. 13 weeks of rest. I can do that. You hate resting, Wurim pointed out. I'll learn to love it. For them. She patted her belly. Besides, you'll keep me entertained. Tell me about the centers, the construction, everything I'm missing. So began their new routine. Wurim worked from home as much as possible, bringing architectural plans to Nora's bedside, describing every detail of the Busan and Lagos centers. The Busan Foundation had been redesigned with the innovative web structure. Construction was ahead of schedule, projected opening in late March, just after the twins' birth. Lagos was more complicated. Wurim's father had spent 2 weeks there, navigating government bureaucracy, and emerged victorious. The permits were approved, construction beginning. But it would take longer. Projected completion in June. I want to be there for the opening, Nora said wistfully. Lagos, my mother's center. You will be, with our twins, your mother's grandchildren. Wurim smiled. We'll make it a family trip. Show them where you come from. A Korean-Nigerian family going to Lagos. That's going to be interesting. Everything about us is interesting. The weeks passed slowly but steadily. January became February. Nora's belly grew enormous with twins. The weekly checkups showed continued health, strong heartbeats, good growth. Twin A's condition was confirmed via detailed ultrasounds. Yes, the anatomical variant was there. But Dr. Park assured them modern management strategies, specialized pediatric urologists, and early education would give the child every tool to thrive. They'll face challenges, Dr. Park said during one appointment. No point pretending otherwise. But Mr. Kim is proof those challenges are survivable. More than survivable, they can build extraordinary lives. February brought the Lunar New Year. Wurim's parents came to the house with traditional foods, lucky money for the unborn twins, apologies wrapped in formal Korean etiquette for their 3-year absence. Healing wasn't instant, but it was happening. His mother helped prepare the nursery. His father shared stories about Wurim's childhood, things he'd never told before. You were stubborn even at 2, his father said one afternoon. Refused help with everything, had to do it yourself. Build your own towers with blocks. Tie your own shoes. I thought it was defiance. But your mother said it was strength. Learning independence early because you sensed you'd need it. I never knew you noticed, Wurim said quietly. I noticed everything. I just didn't know how to tell you I was proud. How to admit my own fear made me cruel. His father's voice cracked. I'm sorry, son. For all of it. For making you feel alone when you needed family most. They were building something new. Not erasing the past, but creating a different future. Minsu visited weekly, bringing drawings and songs he'd composed. He'd learned Nora's guitar, played simple melodies that made her cry happy tears. For the babies, he'd say seriously, so they know music before they're even born. Late February brought a crisis. Nora's blood pressure spiked during a routine checkup. Preeclampsia concerns. Dr. Park ordered complete bed rest, not just taking it easy, but literally no getting up except for bathroom breaks. It's too early, Nora panicked. I'm only 30 weeks. They need more time. Which is why we're doing everything to keep them inside, Dr. Park said firmly. Complete rest, blood pressure medication, daily monitoring. We're aiming for 35 weeks minimum. That's 5 more weeks. We can do this. Those 5 weeks were torture. Nora couldn't work, couldn't move, couldn't even sit up for more than short periods. Wurim worked from their bedroom, laptop on a desk, phone conferences on mute so she could rest. Her aunt moved in completely, managing the household. His parents visited daily, bringing meals and company. The isolation was crushing for Nora, who'd spent her life in motion. I feel useless, she cried one night, lying here while everyone else builds my dreams. You're building our children, Wurim said, holding her hand. That's not useless. That's everything. March came. 33 weeks. 34 weeks. The twins were measuring well but small, expected for twins. Dr. Park scheduled a C-section for March 15th. 36 weeks exactly. Any earlier is risky. Any later risks your blood pressure crisis. March 15th is our target. March 10th, Wurim's assistant called. Sir, the Busan Center. There's been a problem. A massive problem. The primary contractor embezzled funds. Disappeared with nearly $2 million. The workers haven't been paid in weeks. Construction has stopped completely. The opening scheduled for March 20th. It's not happening. Wurim felt the world tilt. How bad? Catastrophic. Without immediate capital injection, we lose everything. The workers will file liens. We'll be trapped in legal battles for years. The center will never open. How much do we need? Right now? $3 million to cover the embezzled funds, pay workers, and finish construction. And we need it in 72 hours or the workers' union files claims. $3 million in 3 days. Wurim looked at his investment portfolio, his assets. He could cover it, but it would liquidate nearly everything except the house. Wipe out reserves meant for the twins' future, for emergencies, for the Lego Center completion. He made the decision in seconds. Transfer the funds, pay the workers, finish the center. Sir, that's your entire liquid assets. I don't care. Those workers have families. That center will serve children who need it. Transfer the funds. Today. He hung up. Turned to find Nora awake, having heard everything. You just gave away our safety net, she said quietly. I gave it to something that matters. We'll rebuild our savings. The center can't wait. What about the twins? Their future? Their medical needs? We'll figure it out. Together. Like we always do. He took her hand. That center is their legacy too. Proof that their parents fought for something bigger than money. Nora pulled him down, kissed him fiercely. I love you. Your impossible optimism, your ridiculous nobility, all of it. We're going to be broke with newborn twins, and it's absolutely insane. Completely insane. I can't wait. March 15th arrived. The C-section was scheduled for 10 a.m. They arrived at the hospital at 7 a.m. for prep. Nora was surprisingly calm. Wurim was a wreck. I'm terrified, he admitted as they wheeled her toward the operating room. Me too, but we're terrified together. That makes it better. The surgery took 47 minutes. Wurim stood beside Nora's head, holding her hand while they worked behind the curtain. First cry. A girl. Twin B, the one without the condition. Strong, loud, furious at being removed from her warm home. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. She's beautiful, the nurse said, holding her up briefly before taking her to be cleaned. Second cry. A boy. Twin A, the one with his father's condition. Smaller, quieter, but alive. 5 pounds, 9 ounces. He's perfect, Wurim whispered, seeing his son for the first time. Both babies were healthy enough to avoid NICU. They were cleaned, weighed, wrapped, and brought to Nora. She held them both, one in each arm, crying and laughing simultaneously. They're so small, so perfect. Look at them. Wurim looked. His daughter had Nora's full lips, his own cheekbones. His son had Nora's wide eyes, his own fair complexion showing through. Different yet clearly siblings, perfect in their difference. Names, Nora said. We never decided on names. They'd argued about names for months, never agreeing. Korean names, Nigerian names, combination names. But looking at his children, Wurim knew. Chima, he said, for our daughter, after your mother, her full name, Chima Nora Kim. Nora's eyes flooded with fresh tears. Yes, perfect. And our son? Taewon, meaning one who finds his own way. Because he will, just like I did. Taewon Chibuezi Kim, using your father's name too. Chima and Taewon. Nora looked at her babies, at this impossible, beautiful reality. Our family. Recovery took 5 days in the hospital. Both twins thrived. Strong lungs, good feeding, healthy responses. Taewon would need specialized pediatric care monitoring his condition, but nothing urgent. They were cleared for discharge on March 20th. The same day the Busan Center opened its doors. They brought the 5-day-old twins to the ribbon cutting, Nora still moving slowly from surgery but determined to be there. The center was magnificent. Every detail Wurim had designed, every space Nora had envisioned for healing. Minsu cut the ribbon, the 7-year-old boy who'd been their first success story. His speech was clear now, his confidence restored. This center is for kids like me, he said into the microphone, reading from a speech Nora had helped him write. Kids who got hurt and need help finding their voices again. Miss Nora and Mr. Kim built this because they believe every kid deserves a safe place to heal. And now their babies are here to see it too. The crowd erupted in applause. Photographers captured the moment. Wurim holding Taewon, Nora holding Chima, Minsu between them grinning, the new center gleaming behind them in morning light. It wasn't the ending Wurim had imagined a year ago, sitting broken in an alley, but it was better. Messier, more complicated, more beautiful. They were broke. They were exhausted. They were healing from trauma and building something impossible. They were a family. And this was only the beginning. 3 months after the twins were born, life had settled into beautiful chaos. Wurim worked from home mostly, juggling architecture projects with diaper changes. Nora was on maternity leave, but already planning her return to the Busan Center. The twins were thriving. Chima was loud and demanding. Taewon quieter but watchful. Both perfect. The financial strain was real. They'd liquidated almost everything for the Busan Center. The mortgage on the Cliff House was their largest remaining asset, and even that was leveraged. But they were managing, barely. June brought the completion of the Lagos Center. The opening was scheduled for June 15th, and despite their financial situation, Nora was determined to attend. It's my mother's legacy, she told Wurim as they packed for the trip. Our children need to see where their grandmother's dream came true. So they flew to Lagos as a family, Wurim, Nora, 3-month-old twins, Nora's aunt, and surprisingly, Wurim's parents, who'd insisted on coming to support them. Lagos hit Wurim like a physical force. The heat, the noise, the energy, everything was intense and alive. The twins handled it remarkably well. Chima fascinated by every sound, Taewon calm despite the chaos. The center was in Surulere, 3 blocks from where Nora grew up. The building was beautiful, modern but incorporating traditional Nigerian architectural elements Wurim had researched obsessively. Colorful murals by local artists covered the exterior walls. Inside, therapy rooms designed for music and healing, spaces for traumatized children to find their voices. The opening ceremony was massive. Local government officials, community leaders, families who'd already enrolled their children. Chief Okonkwo was there, the man who'd claimed to have Nora's inheritance, who'd turned out to be connected to the arson scheme. He'd been investigated and cleared of direct involvement, but his nephew remained in prison for the fire. "I'm sorry," Chief Okonkwo said, approaching Nora before the ceremony, "for my nephew's actions, for any pain my family caused. Your father would have been proud of what you've built here." "Did you really know my father?" Nora asked directly. "Or was that part of the manipulation too?" "I knew him. We built a trading company together. Everything I told you about him was true. He died in that accident when you were 3. But I should have respected your mother's wishes and stayed away completely. Instead, I let my nephew's greed influence my decisions. I'm sorry." Nora looked at this old man, at the genuine regret in his eyes. "The center is open now. My mother's dream is real. That's what matters. But Chief, stay away from my family, please. We've had enough complications." He nodded and walked away. Another ghost laid to rest. The ceremony was beautiful. Local children performed traditional dances. A choir from Nora's mother's church sang gospel music that made Nora cry. Wurim gave a speech about healing through architecture and music, about building spaces where difference was celebrated. Then Nora spoke, holding 3-month-old Chima, while Wurim held Taiwan. "My mother, Chima, raised me alone in Surulere. She taught me that music heals what words cannot reach. She worked 2 jobs so I could study music therapy. She died before seeing this dream realized, but she's here in every note played in these rooms, every child who finds their voice here. Mama, this is for you. This is your legacy living on." The crowd erupted. The ribbon was cut. The Chima Okoro Memorial Center for Music Therapy opened its doors. That night, back at their hotel, Wurim received a call from his assistant. "Sir, there's been a development about the Busan Center funding crisis. Someone's made an anonymous donation, $5 million, enough to completely replenish your reserves and fund operations for 2 years." "What? Who?" "Anonymous. Routed through multiple accounts. Impossible to trace. But sir, the timing, the amount. Someone knew exactly what you needed." Wurim hung up, stunned. Told Nora, who was equally confused. $5 million? Just appears? That's not normal. Nothing about our life is normal. They spent a week in Lagos, introducing the twins to their Nigerian heritage. Nora's aunt took them to the markets, to her mother's church, to the neighborhood where Chima had grown up. Taewon and Chima were baptized in the same church where Nora's mother had prayed every Sunday. "They're connected to both worlds now," Nora's aunt said, holding the twins after the ceremony. "Korea and Nigeria, your mother's spirit and their father's strength. These children will build bridges." The flight back to Seoul was long but peaceful. Both twins slept most of the way, exhausted from stimulation. Wurim and Nora held hands across the armrest, watching their children sleep. "We did it," Nora whispered. "Both centers open, our children healthy. We survived." "We did more than survive. We built something lasting." But landing in Seoul brought new complications. At the airport, a woman approached them, someone Wurim didn't recognize immediately. Older, maybe late 60s, elegant, with kind eyes. "Mr. Kim? Ms. Okoro? I'm Dr. Helen Morrison. I'm a specialist in pediatric urology from Johns Hopkins. I've been following your story, and I'd like to discuss Taewon's condition. I believe I can help." They took her contact information, too exhausted to process much. But 2 days later, curiosity won. They met Dr. Morrison at a cafe in Gangnam. "I've studied cases like Taewon's for 40 years, Dr. Morrison explained. "The condition your son has, and that you have, Mr. Kim, it's rare but manageable. I've developed a non-surgical therapeutic protocol that's shown remarkable success. Started early enough, by age 3 or 4, we can improve flexibility, reduce potential pain, and ensure healthy development. Not changing who he is, just giving him tools to thrive. We decided not to intervene, Nora said carefully. We want him to develop naturally. I respect that, but what I'm offering isn't intervention to fix him. It's support to help him avoid the pain you experienced, Mr. Kim. Physical therapy, graduated exercises, education about his body. Think of it like any other physical therapy, helping muscles and tissues develop optimally. Wurim looked at Nora. They'd been so certain about their choice. But hearing that Taiwan might avoid years of pain, might not face the humiliation and rejection Wurim had endured, that changed the equation. We'll think about it, Wurim said. Carefully. Dr. Morrison left her information. Wurim and Nora sat in silence, watching their children. Chima sleeping, Taewan awake and alert, his wide dark eyes taking in everything. What do you think? Nora asked finally. I think I don't want him to suffer like I did, but I also don't want to send the message that he needs fixing. What if it's not about fixing? What if it's just about giving him advantages we didn't have? Like how we'll teach them Korean and Igbo, give them music lessons, ensure they have every tool to succeed. Then we consider it. When he's older, when we can explain why, and he can participate in the choice. They agreed to table the discussion until Taiwan was at least 3, old enough to have some say in his own care. July brought their wedding. They'd postponed it twice. Once for Nora's pregnancy complications, once for the twins' arrival. But now, with both centers open and their children healthy, it was time. They kept it small. 50 people in a garden ceremony at a traditional hanok in Seoul. Nora wore a white dress with Nigerian Ankara fabric accents. Wurim wore a traditional Korean hanbok. They incorporated both cultures. Korean bows, Nigerian jumping the broom, readings in English, Korean, and Igbo. Minsu was the ring bearer, now 8 years old and completely transformed from the silent, traumatized boy of 2 years ago. He carried the rings in a small box, beaming with pride. Wurim's parents attended, fully present now, helping with the twins during the ceremony. Nora's aunt stood in place of her mother, weeping through the whole event. The vows were simple. Wurim promised to build spaces where Nora's music could heal. Nora promised to fill Wurim's structures with life and love. They both promised to show their children that different was beautiful, that struggle could become strength, that love was always worth the risk. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said. You may kiss. They did, to applause and cheers, while Chima cried loudly in Wurim's mother's arms, and Taiwan watched quietly from his grandfather's lap. The reception was in the hanok's courtyard. Traditional Korean food and Nigerian dishes side by side. K-pop and Afrobeats alternating on the speakers. Their families mixing, dancing, celebrating this impossible, beautiful fusion. Late in the evening, as the party wound down, Wurim's assistant appeared looking urgent. Sir, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to know. About the anonymous donation. We've been investigating and we finally traced it. Who was it? Seo Yun Park. Or rather, her husband, her ex-husband now. He made the donation as part of their divorce settlement. Apparently, she demanded he donate to your foundation as penance for abandoning their child. It was his way of finalizing the divorce quickly. Wurim stood there stunned. Seo Yun had found a way to help despite everything, had turned her divorce into something good. It didn't erase her lies, but it complicated the narrative of villainy. There's more, his assistant continued. Seo Yun contacted the office last week. She gave birth to a son. She named him Wurim. Said it was to honor the man who showed her what real strength looked like, even though she'd tried to destroy him. She's asking if you'd be willing to meet the baby. Just once. so her son could see someone who survived the same condition thriving. Wurim looked at Nora, who'd been listening. What do you think? I think people are complicated. I think she did terrible things from desperate places. I think her son deserves to have hope. Nora paused. But I also think we set boundaries for a reason. We can't let her back into our lives just because she named her baby after you. What if we don't let her back in, but we let her son see us? Just once. Let him see our family. See that this condition doesn't define everything. Then we maintain the boundary. Nora considered. Once. One meeting. We show her son that life with this condition can be beautiful. Then we're done. Forever. They agreed. The meeting was scheduled for August 1st at a neutral location, the Busan Center, during a family open house event. Seo-yoon arrived looking different, thinner, tired, but somehow more real than Wurim had ever seen her. She carried a 4-month-old baby, small and alert, with eyes that reminded Wurim painfully of himself. Thank you for agreeing to this, Seo-yoon said quietly. I know I don't deserve your kindness. You don't, Nora said bluntly, but your son does. What's his name? Wurim J. Park, J meaning talent or ability. I wanted him to know he's capable of anything despite the challenges. They sat in one of the therapy rooms, away from the crowd. Seo-yoon held baby Wurim, while Nora held Taiwan and Chima sat in a carrier beside them. This is Taiwan, Nora said, showing baby Wurim the 3-month-old. He has the same condition as your son, and this is his sister Chima. They're loved exactly as they are. No conditions, no shame, no fear. Seo-yoon started crying. I was so scared when I found out. So convinced my baby would suffer endlessly. That's why I panicked, why I tried to trap you. I thought you were the only one who could save him. But you're saving him, Wurim said gently. By getting help. By connecting with support networks. By refusing to see him as broken. You're already doing what matters most. The foundation sent resources. Dr. Morrison contacted me. Said you referred her? The physical therapy protocols? The specialized pediatricians? Why? After what I did to you? Why help? Because your son didn't do anything wrong. He deserves every advantage. Wurim looked at baby Wurim, at this child who'd bear his name forever. And because I understand what it's like to feel different, if I can spare any child that pain, I will, even when their mother tried to destroy me. Seo-yoon looked at him with something like awe. You're a better person than I ever gave you credit for. I'm sorry. For all of it. For that Christmas party. For the humiliation. For the lies. I'm so sorry. I know. And I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger would poison the life I've built. He looked at Nora, at his children. I have everything I ever wanted. You can't hurt that anymore. They talked for an hour. Seo-yoon shared her fears, her plans, her determination to be a better mother than she'd been a person. Wurim and Nora offered advice, resources, connection to other families. Then they said goodbye, final and complete. Good luck, Nora told Seo-yoon at the door. Really, I hope you and your son have a beautiful life. Thank you, both of you, for showing me what grace looks like. She left. The door closed. That chapter was finally, completely finished. September brought new rhythms. Nora returned to work part-time at the Busan Center. Wurim balanced architecture projects with primary childcare. The twins hit milestones. Chima rolled over first. Taewon smiled first. Both were healthy, thriving, loved beyond measure. October brought an unexpected letter from Dr. Morrison at Johns Hopkins. Dear Mr. Kim and Ms. Okoro, I'm writing to inform you of a research breakthrough. Our team has identified the genetic markers responsible for the anatomical variant your son carries. More importantly, we've developed a gene therapy that could potentially prevent the condition in future generations. We're seeking families to participate in the study. If successful, your children, should they choose to have children someday, could ensure their own children don't inherit this challenge. I know you've been thoughtful about intervention. This isn't about changing Taiwan. He's perfect as he is. This is about giving your family choices for the future. No pressure, no urgency, just information. The study begins in 3 years. If you're interested, please let me know. With respect, Dr. Helen Morrison. Wurim and Nora sat with the letter for a long time. Gene therapy, Nora finally said. That's massive. That's changing the future. It feels wrong, like we're saying the condition is something to eliminate. Or like we're saying our children should have choices we didn't have. Nora looked at Taiwan, now 6 months old, babbling happily. He's perfect. But if he grows up and decides he doesn't want his children to face these challenges, shouldn't he have that option? I don't know. This is too big. Too complicated. Then we table it. We have 3 years before the study even starts. We focus on raising our babies, running our centers, living our lives. When Taiwan is old enough to have opinions, we include him in the conversation. They agreed, filed the letter away, returned to the beautiful chaos of twin infants and building a life. November brought Taiwan's first pediatric urology appointment with a specialist Dr. Morrison had recommended in Seoul. The doctor examined him thoroughly, ran tests, then sat down with Wurim and Nora with a strange expression. I need to tell you something unusual, the doctor said carefully. About Taiwan's condition, the anatomical variant you were told he has. It's not quite what we're seeing. What do you mean? Wurim's heart stopped. The initial ultrasound showed markers consistent with the condition, but now, examining him directly, I'm seeing something different, something we've never documented before. Is he okay? Is something wrong? He's healthy, but his anatomy, it's not the same as yours, Mr. Kim. It's similar, but different. A variant of the variant, if you will. And here's what's remarkable. This version appears to be self-correcting. As he grows, his body seems to be naturally adjusting, developing in ways that may not cause the challenges you faced. Nora grabbed Wurim's hand. What are you saying? I'm saying Taiwan may face minimal issues, perhaps none at all. His body is doing naturally what we try to achieve with therapy and intervention. It's extraordinary. It's like he got a genetic mutation that's actually advantageous, taking the condition and evolving it into something that works better. Wurim couldn't speak. His son, his perfect son, might not suffer at all. Might grow up free from the pain, the humiliation, the rejection. Why? He finally managed. Why is this happening? Genetics are complex. Maybe it's the combination of your genetics and Ms. Okaro's. Maybe it's just random beneficial mutation. Maybe it's something we don't understand yet. But Mr. Kim, your son is teaching us something new about this condition. He's showing us it can evolve. It can change. They left the appointment in stunned silence. Drove home holding hands, processing impossible news. He's free, Nora whispered. He gets to be free of it. But I wasn't. Why him and not me? Wurim didn't realize he was crying until Nora wiped his tears. Because you paved the way. Your pain, your struggle, your survival. Maybe somehow it made space for his freedom. You broke the curse by refusing to let it break you. That's not how genetics works. Maybe not. But it's how love works. How legacy works. You transformed your pain into centers that heal children. Maybe the universe gave you a son who doesn't need healing. Maybe that's the reward for all you've built. Wurim pulled over, unable to drive through tears. They sat in the parked car, both crying, holding each other while their twins slept peacefully in the back seat. I'm happy for him, Worm said finally. So grateful he won't suffer. But also, grieving what you endured. Wishing you'd had the same freedom. Yes, that's okay. Both feelings can be true. You can be grateful for his future while mourning your past. That's human. They sat there until the tears stopped, until they could breathe normally again. Then they drove home to their beautiful, chaotic life. December arrived. The twins were 8 months old. Chima was crawling everywhere, into everything. Taiwan was more cautious but determined, watching his sister, then following carefully. They were different in every way. Chima loud and demanding, Taiwan quiet and observant, but devoted to each other. Christmas Eve marked 2 years since Worim and Nora met in that alley. They took the twins back to the same rooftop where the original Christmas party had been, where Seoyun had humiliated Worim, where everything had started. The venue was hosting a charity event for the therapy centers. Minsu performed, singing a song he'd composed himself. Families whose children had been helped by the centers attended. Success stories everywhere. Worim stood at the same spot where he'd been rejected, but now Nora was beside him, their twins in their arms, their centers thriving, their life full and complete. 2 years, Nora said softly, from the worst night of your life to this. Best thing that ever happened to me, Worim replied. That humiliation led me to you. Everything led us here. Your pain, my running, our broken pieces finding each other. They watched the party, their family around them, Worim's parents playing with the twins, Nora's aunt laughing with other guests, Minsu chattering excitedly about his performance. As midnight approached, as Christmas Eve became Christmas morning exactly 2 years after they'd met, Worim's phone rang. Unknown international number. Hello? Mr. Kim? This is Chief Okonkwo in Lagos. I'm sorry to call so late, but there's been a development about your wife's father's estate, the real estate, the investments I mentioned before. I told you the truth about them existing, but I lied about one thing. The inheritance isn't held in trust waiting for Nora to claim it. It's already hers. Has been since her father died. Her mother set it up that way, but never told Nora because she didn't want her daughter making life choices based on money. I don't understand. Why are you telling us this now? Because your mother-in-law's lawyer just contacted me. The funds have been managed and invested for 25 years. They've grown substantially. Nora isn't just wealthy, Mr. Kim. She's extraordinarily wealthy. I'm talking $50 million. And she needs to know because the lawyer is retiring, and the estate must be formally claimed by year's end, or it defaults to the Nigerian government. Worim's vision blurred. $50 million. They'd been struggling financially, had liquidated everything for the centers, had been worried about the twins' future expenses. And Nora had been sitting on $50 million she didn't know existed. Mr. Kim, are you there? I'm here. Send the documentation, we'll handle it. He hung up. Turned to Nora, who was watching him with concern. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's... He laughed, slightly hysterical. Your father left you $50 million. Your mother never told you. It's been invested since you were 3. It's yours. All of it. We're not broke anymore. Wait. What? Before he could explain further, the rooftop door burst open. Dr. Park rushed in, looking frantic. Mr. Kim, Ms. Okoro, thank God I found you. I've been trying to call. It's about the genetic testing on the twins. There's been a terrible mistake, a catastrophic error in the lab results. We need to retest immediately. Everything we told you about Taiwan's condition, about it self-correcting. She stopped, seeing their faces, seeing they were at a party with their children. What are you saying? Nora's voice was ice. I'm saying we may have given you incorrect information About both twins. We need to run new tests tonight. The lab that processed their genetics. There's been a massive scandal. Switched samples, contaminated results, falsified data. Everything from the past 6 months is suspect. We don't actually know which twin has what condition, or if the condition is self-correcting, or anything we told you. We know nothing for certain. The rooftop fell silent. The party continued around them, oblivious. But Wareem and Nora stood frozen, holding their 8-month-old twins, suddenly unsure of everything they'd believed about their children's futures. Chima gurgled happily in Wareem's arms. Taewon watched everyone with his serious dark eyes from Nora's shoulder. Both perfect, both loved, both suddenly complete mysteries again. And somewhere in Lagos, $50 million waited to be claimed. But here, now, in this moment, Wareem and Nora looked at their children and realized the truth. Money didn't matter. Medical certainty didn't matter. Knowing the future didn't matter. Love mattered. Choice mattered. Showing up every day mattered. Everything else was just details. Dr. Park waited for their response, medical forms in hand, urgency in her eyes. The Christmas lights blinked red and green across the Hyundai skyline, exactly as they had 2 years ago. And Wareem and Nora, holding their children, holding each other, holding on to hope, made their choice. No, Nora said clearly. No more tests, no more certainty. We're done chasing medical predictions. Whatever our children face, whatever challenges come, we'll handle them together. As a family, with love. But you need to know. We know everything that matters, Wareem said firmly. Our children are healthy right now. They're loved right now. That's enough. When and if challenges arise, we'll face them then. But we're done letting fear of the future steal joy from the present. Dr. Park looked between them, saw their unified front, and slowly nodded. I understand. But if you change your minds, we won't. Thank you for caring. But we're choosing peace. She left. The party continued, and Wareem and Nora stood there holding their children, their perfect, mysterious children, knowing nothing and everything all at once. $50 million, Nora said finally. Yeah. From my father, I never knew. Yeah. We could expand the centers, open 20 more, change thousands of lives. We could. They looked at each other, smiled, kissed softly while their babies squirmed between them. Merry Christmas, Wareem whispered. Merry Christmas, Nora replied. And somewhere in the universe, in the space between certainty and hope, between past pain and future possibility, their story continued. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Not finished, but beginning again.